Hey, welcome to Slice of Life, where faith meets the everyday. I'm James, and each podcast I invite someone to dive into the moments that shape us, challenge us, and draw us closer to Christ. From coffee shop conversations to carpool reflections, we're talking about real life and the spiritual truths that help us live it well. So grab your slice of time and let's grow together. Well, hey, welcome to Life Slice of Life again. And I got Stephanie one more time, which is great. We're gonna have an interesting conversation, possibly. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see. We're talking about life and not slice of life. We're talking about the value of life,
Right.
and
Yeah.
and I think when we think about life itself, this is one of those divisive conversations
Yeah.
in the world.
Oh, yeah.
And even in the Christian world, like
Yeah.
there's not agreement on a lot of these subjects, and so let's try to have a
Yeah.
conversation, and with as much heart of the Father as possible,
Yeah.
right?
I think the natural spot to start with this topic is, when does life start?
Yeah,
And I think mostly, I want to say hesitantly, mostly Christians agree that life would begin at conception.
mm-hmm.
I know that we do have outliers on that, where it's not, we don't consider it life until the heart beats, but
Right.
would you agree that by and large the church recognizes life at conception?
Yeah.
Oh, there's a pause. There's a pause.
There's a pause. Well, there's a pause because stats don't agree with that.
Okay.
Like, and in the Christian world, I'm a stat guy, man. I just
Right.
love it's just I've always
You're
been
a
a
nerd.
numbers guy. I am in this. Yeah, I am. I'm proud of that. And so when you read it, it's just people really have arguments over that.
Okay.
And actually, this is kind of an interesting. I don't know why this came up, but my wife and I we love the Big Bang Theory.
Okay.
And for a lot of reasons. And it's an interesting show to me. I love the characters. I love the progression of the characters, the writing. And I'm going to say a couple things, and I don't know why I'm going to say this, but number one, the Big Bang Theory is very interesting. Is that again, it's not written for Christians by Christians,
No.
right? But in that world, how they live. Abortion, it seems to be the right thing to do. But they never talk about it. One of the characters gets pregnant, but they never talk about a fetus. They call it a baby immediately.
From the beginning.
And they always use that word,
Yeah.
right? That word. And I think that's kind of what we're talking about here is, when is a baby and when is a baby a fetus?
Right.
Right? Because a fetus is almost this moment of saying, it's not quite human yet.
Yeah. It's like a below us on the ladder.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So it's just the cells right
Yeah.
now. It's just a fetus.
Yeah.
But the Big Bang Theory at one point, they never refer, even at the very beginning,
Yeah.
it's a baby, and it just really impacted me. But I think going back to the whole stats thing, that's where we have a disconnect within the Christian world, is that when do we believe it's human?
Right.
So life begins, I think most would say, yeah, life begins at conception.
Yeah.
But what's life? Is it humanoid or is it cellular?
Man.
Right.
Okay.
And so I think that was my apprehension of answering that question. Is I think most Christians would say, yeah, at conception, life begins, whether it's a human or not.
Right.
Right. Like truly, a baby,
Yeah.
doesn't happen till much later.
Okay.
I say much later. Some are talking about weeks later. We have the morning after pill. That becomes an okay thing,
Okay.
right? Because
Well, it's not a baby yet.
it's not a baby. It's
Right.
just cells,
Right.
cells, right? It's not quite formed. It's not right. And so I think we're talking. Obviously, I'm going right into abortion, but I think because of the beginning of life
Yeah.
concept. You see those billboards, you say, hey, the heartbeat starts at this time.
Yeah.
They start growing fingernails at this time. When is it that you decide that something has gone from a cellular structure, amoeba concept,
Yeah.
into it's actually a human?
Right.
And I think that's the struggle for a lot of Christians,
Okay.
is trying to figure out when's that moment. Well, what does the Bible say?
Right.
I'm glad you asked. because I'm a Christian
Yeah.
and I'm a pastor.
That's
and
how we should be
I
framing
believe in the
our
Bible.
life.
The
Yeah.
Bible says that it says that you knew me, you formed me in my mother's womb.
Right.
Okay, so if I just take that at face value, which a lot of scriptures should be taken at face value,
Yes.
right, and all these other scriptures that we know about, then life begins at the moment of the of conception, the
Right.
moment of the sperm meeting the egg. Boom, the magic happens.
Yes.
Life begins
Okay.
because God began the form
Right.
at that moment.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting, in my opinion, this is interesting, is that God says, before you were formed, I knew you.
Yeah.
That adds value to that fetus,
Yeah.
to that baby, to that cell, whatever, right? That God
If-
chose in that moment, even prior to that moment, prior to conception, to know that child,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So
And what was going to hit what to form who?
exactly
Right.
that life. When did life begin? I could even argue from a biblical theological stance, it happened prior to conception
Oh, wow.
because it was God's decision,
To align.
foreknown decision.
Yeah.
I knew you before I formed you,
Yeah.
right? And so, I mean, we can argue, well, what did he mean by know? Because he knows past, present, future, right? That whole thing. No, I think there's this moment where, again, that God knows us. And you and I, we think in time.
Yeah.
And it's one of my favorite subjects is God doesn't think in time. God created time, right? The day and the night. He created that for you and I, so we could understand our universe. We can understand our world. We can understand life
Yeah.
itself, right? So before God created the heavens and the earth, right? Before he created time, he existed. He existed, therefore, outside of time.
Yeah.
So God created time so you and I could understand time. We could understand our world, that there's some tangible moment there. We can begin to count things, right? And so in that moment of him knowing, what he says is, I already knew you,
Yeah.
right? Because I'm outside of time.
Yeah.
But I chose this time to bring you
Bring
into.
you in. Yeah.
It should just bother us. I mean, from a moment of just like not bothering like bad, but our mind should break when we begin to think about that God chose me for this time. And that means any individual, any woman, that's the only one that can, right? that has a child conceived in her.
Yeah.
God had already chosen prior to that moment
That this was the time.
that was the time for this child to happen. And I can already hear people very mad at me because then you have the rape and the incest and all these other
Yeah.
conversations. Well, God chose. Are you telling me that God chose that person to be raped or the incest to happen? No, but he knows about the evil that's going to happen in the world.
Right.
And in that moment, for whatever reason, because God works all things out for those who call according to his plans purpose, God desires to take that which the enemy meant for evil and turn it into good. That he chose at that moment and blessed that woman with the opportunity to raise
Yeah.
a child.
And I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the context of the conception ultimately doesn't change the value of the life.
Right.
Right? Because, and it's a hard thing and it's an awful thing and there's evil in the world and no part of it is okay. No part of it, but
none whatsoever.
But it doesn't change the fact that that is a life with value. Like the circumstance almost shouldn't be part of the argument because the circumstance doesn't change the value of the life.
Right. Yeah, and it's such a hard subject because
it's emotional.
It kills me when I hear these stories of these individuals that have gone through what they've gone through. But it's evil.
Yeah.
God did not create evil. Evil came into this world, and what God has done since the beginning has been trying to draw people into relationship with him and to teach people what's right and what's wrong, but they choose, right? And so I think, anytime we blame God for the evil in this world, we're missing the whole point of
Right.
it, right? And so I think, yeah, we got to get to the point where we're looking. So, okay, where's what who or I guess where's the value,
Yeah.
right? Is that human? Does that human being in my womb have value?
Yeah.
And that value, praise God, is not because of the parents.
No.
Because I don't know why I need to say it. Your parents don't mean your value, right? And so I think like, my story is I've shared it. I didn't meet my real dad until I was in my 20s, broken family, the whole thing. And I always wondered, like, man, I wish I was adopted.
Yeah.
I didn't really relate to my family, the whole thing. And it was because I thought, well, my family made the value. No, I was valuable because
Right.
God created me.
Inherently.
He formed me out of this horrible relationship, right? Parental relationship. God valued me, that God chose me for this time, for this moment. He saw the value. The value was not my parent. And I love my mom to death, right? I'm not saying anything wrong about her, but it wasn't because of her. It was because of me that God
Yeah.
created me, right? So the value of the baby is not the parents or how the conception happened.
Yeah.
It was the fact that the conception happened.
Yeah.
The value is in that moment, that God chose that moment,
Yeah.
you know. And it's so interesting when you hear the stories of those of so many that were raised that their parents didn't choose to abort them, or their mom most of the
Yeah.
time, because of rape or incest. And then these people are talking about like I'm one that should have been aborted according to you guys because
Right.
how I came about was wrong.
Yeah. So does that mean you're a less
Right.
valuable human? We
Yeah.
would never say that. We
No.
would never say,
No.
because it doesn't matter.
Right.
It doesn't matter what the circumstance of the conception was.
Yes.
You have inherent value because God chose you
God chose you.
to be here
Right.
for such a time.
And that is, again, that's such a hard thing, I think, for us to understand.
Yeah.
Is because we look at it and we're like, we look at the start of something and say that's where the value lies. But that's not where the value
No.
lies. All life is precious. All life is precious.
Yeah.
The scriptures, Old Testament, all the way through the New Testament, talks about this idea that of no killing, no murder, no right. And then we can, those of you that know the Bible are going to be like, well, God.
There's a lot of bloodshed in the Bible.
God, yeah, right. But what happened when we look at the very beginning, right, for Adam and Eve, and then Cain and Abel, right? And God's like, hey, talking to Cain and Abel, or talking to Cain, right? Where's your brother? Because
Right.
he'd already killed Abel, right? At this moment, and Cain's response, am I my brother's keeper? That's what he said to God.
Yeah.
Well, yes, you are.
Yeah.
Because Abel's value was because he was valuable to God,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mhm.
God decided Abel was going to be born, was going to live.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I have some onus, I have some responsibility to my brother, to the citizens around me, the people around me. Even again, I say citizens, I'm talking about just every life that I come in contact
Right.
with. I have responsibility for them
Yeah.
because it's a life that God created, and we could talk about any subject here in this moment. It doesn't matter if we're talking about suicide, abortion, or just driving recklessly.
Wow.
All of those moments,
Yeah.
right? Am I putting myself in a position where I'm my brother's keeper, or am I putting my position and saying it's only about my life,
Yeah.
right? Where do I find the value? I must learn as a Christian, we're talking Christians here, I must learn that every life I come in contact is valuable because God created that life.
Which should change the way we have every interaction.
Every interaction. That's
Yeah.
right. Because therefore, everything I do is impacting somebody that God created.
Yeah.
And not only somebody that God created, but somebody God loved.
Yeah.
Or loves, let me say.
Right.
He didn't stop loving, he still loves
Yeah.
them. Right. I begin to we begin to value life in a lot more precious way. Every life. Because then, now let's just talk about racism. Then all of a sudden racism stops.
Right. Because every life is
Because
valuable.
every life is valuable. And so I can no longer see you by your color of your skin, your cultural background, where you were raised, you're Yankee or Southerner, right? I can't look at your value as your education or whether you're rich or you're poor. I can't look, because your value is God created you.
Yeah.
I can't look at you and say you're more valuable because you're more righteous or you're less righteous. I can't look at a prisoner and say, well, your value, your life, your worth is less than mine because you're a prisoner, because you broke the law, right? There's still a value that God has placed on that. But now, because hopefully people are with me on this one, and they're all thinking like death penalty, right?
Yeah.
That's a great
That's a natural segue right here.
Let's go into that, because let's talk about Old Testament again and into the New Testament. This idea of the wrath of God. Right. Well, he told the Israelites, man, go kill everything. Everything.
Yeah.
Well, what was God doing? Well, God was not saying their value was any less.
Yeah.
But he was bringing justice.
Yeah. Because they had their false gods. They had immoral lives or choices and all the other things, and he couldn't have that influencing, swaying, or distracting.
They were going to kill, pervert, destroy. They were going those areas that they were walking into. They were going to destroy Israel and what God was creating in Israel. Yeah. He was bringing justice in the moment.
Yeah.
Right. So when we look at that and we're like, well, God's a vengeful God. No, God was a protective God.
Yeah.
And he was bringing justice. You've sinned. You're going to kill, so I'm going to kill first.
Right.
Hence, let's go on the death penalty, right? And we look in the Old Testament, we see that mindset. The word says, those that I'm trying to think of the exact scripture, but it says those that shed blood.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
By that blood, they're going to be held accountable.
Yeah.
Right. And the concept there is, if you kill somebody, be ready to be killed.
Yeah. There was justice.
There was justice to be had, right?
Yeah.
And so, and you kind of walk through that the legal terms of the Bible. They would say, hey, if you kill a man, run to a city of refuge, not like the city is a refuge today,
right?
Run to a city of refuge, and that you gain protection,
but that was
until they can rightly figure out, were you guilty or were you unguilty, right? Because there's a type of thing like
an accident in a field with no witnesses.
Right. We're out and my ox, is this is Bible, by the way. My ox gores you and kills you, right? I'm liable because that which I own, the oxen, right, killed you. And so I can run to one of these cities of refuge, and then they bring the elders in, they look at it and go, oh, he wasn't liable because of an accident. If something happened.
Yeah.
Now, if my oxen killed you and then it killed someone else, guess what? I'm going to get killed.
Right.
Because I didn't stop it.
Yeah.
It happened once. I'm not going to let it happen again. And so I think we start looking at that and going, okay, so the question begins, when is it right to kill somebody?
Yeah. When?
I don't know. That's what I'm asking you is, I don't want to answer the question.
Well, I mean, and I've kind of changed on this over the years too, I don't disagree with the death penalty.
Yeah.
I do believe that the death penalty serves a purpose in our society.
Right.
I'm also, we gotta be sure.
Yeah.
You gotta be sure. And there's no, it's too much.
Yeah.
I sure wouldn't want to be the one making those decisions.
Right.
And if I had you get the letter in the mail, you got to go sit on the jury, I would probably be like, I don't know that I can vote for the death penalty.
Yeah.
And then you also have the whole, the, think Hannibal Lecter, or you think about like the mass murderers or the people who did it for sport. Yeah, I'm good with that. That's a corrupted, evil, perverse mind.
Right.
I don't have any issue with that. But then I think about, there has to be a high standard for it.
Yeah.
And then, you go into being in the military. well, I had a line. You know, I was comfortable being the person who delivered the bullets.
Right.
I was comfortable being the person who delivered all of these things to people.
Yeah.
But then my number came up as, well, we want you to go be the gunner now. And I was like,
Yeah.
I don't know if I can live with that.
I don't know if I can do it.
And like I get, you know, it's time of war. We're fighting ISIS at the time. But I don't know if I can be the one
Yeah.
behind the gun.
Yeah.
And luckily, you know, God spared me from that.
Right. Right.
But I think we all have a line. And I know friends who are like, no, I got it. Like I can be the like killing the nation as we move in. I can be the one doing the proactive action. I can be defensive. I have no problem being defensive.
Yeah.
But that proactive part.
Yeah.
I mean,
if you shoot at me, I can definitely
I will
shoot
definitely
back,
take you down. You
but
come
I
into
don't
my
know.
home.
Yeah.
I will take you down. I will
Right.
destroy you. I do not care if you're attacking me first,
Right.
but
Yeah.
you're on the ground and I'm in a helicopter. I don't know about that.
But I think it comes to that, like, that decision moment.
Yeah.
Right. And whether you agree or disagree with the death penalty, I think you make a great point of, like, are we 100% positive?
Yeah.
Right. And then I think it goes, and let's just talk as Christians. It goes for us asking, when are we condemning someone to hell?
Yeah.
I want to go there, right? So we
Right.
kind of established the time of life, right? It starts at conception, right? Bible's very clear on that, even preconception, right? It starts. So the value starts at the very beginning. So at the end of the life, when is it okay to send someone to hell,
Yeah.
right?
That's
so
like a powerful choice to be
I'm
making.
not saying death now. I'm saying when is it okay to say you have gone past redemption point?
Yeah.
You know, you've gone so far that it's time that it's okay for me to kill you and send you to hell.
Yeah.
Right? Because you know, I'm not going to give you that extra chance, that redemption. And so that's where I always struggle with, like, the death penalty concept. Because I think in certain cases it's right, you know, but I'm always thinking that other step is, like, when have they gone past?
Yeah.
Right. You know, and so I look at Hitler. Hitler to me is a great example of this. If we arrested Hitler, did he deserve death? Oh,
Yeah.
completely.
100%.
I would have no qualms about that. But at the same point, I was like, but did that mean that he was past the point of redemption?
But how can we as humans know that?
Uh-huh.
We can't. We don't
can't
know
know that.
Like, I mean, I think judging by fruit, I would say by fruit,
Yeah.
he was past the point of redemption.
Right.
Because it wasn't just killing.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of, we talked about the context of conception doesn't matter. Well, I think the context of killing does matter.
Yeah.
It wasn't just killing. It was inhumane. It was experimental. It was torturous. Like,
He looked at life as if it had no value
Yeah.
at all.
Yeah.
Right.
And to me, like, I think that helps justify the death penalty more, is if you can see, well, this person truly has no concept of the value of life. They enjoyed inflicting pain.
Yeah.
And then, you know, you look at if a drug addict killed somebody when they were high.
Yeah.
Well, okay, we don't know that person enjoys
Right.
killing. There was another circumstance at play. They weren't in their right. You know, that to me is more of a gray area on the death penalty.
Yeah.
But when you are, I'm going to do it because I want to get famous.
Yeah.
Like the school shooters often are after infamy.
Right.
And I want to hurt the people who hurt me. And I want to do all this destruction.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's judging fruit. But then I don't want to be the one saying you're past the point.
Yeah,
and
I
you're going
think
to
we
hell.
go to the point thinking about, like, what a Bible calls a reprobate mind.
Yeah.
This mind where they will never accept Christ.
Yeah.
They will never. They've gone as so far away from basically saying, I believe in God, but I don't want God.
Yeah.
Right.
Rejecting it.
And so I think when we think death penalty, I agree with the death penalty. I think it's very biblical in the right cases, and making sure that justice has been done, and we've taken every step to get that point. I think we need to have that next step of, like, man, if you're on death row, man, I hope there are people talking with you. I hope, they're
Yeah.
sharing Christ with you. Um, but it's just a hard stance. And I think we have to be 100% positive,
Yeah.
and I think we hear too often where, um, you know, at the end of the day that the death penalties, it doesn't happen very often now, right? But that maybe it wasn't the right thing to do.
Yeah.
Maybe there was this
They were
moment,
innocent and there was an
right?
issue with the case or
So and I think value of life, is super important, but with that is value of eternity,
mhm. Yeah.
right? And that changes our conversation a lot,
Yeah.
in my opinion, right? Because again, we're not just talking about my heart, right? My heartbeat. We're talking about my
Eternity.
eternity,
Yeah.
you know, and it makes a lot more for us to discuss, especially like a death penalty moment where we say, have I really, am I in a moment where I'm willing to judge and say, yeah, this person's a reprobate, and
Yeah.
they will never, and so the only right thing to do is to destroy them.
Because that's a protection of our
Right,
innocent and
right,
our protecting our own society at
yeah,
that point,
yeah,
which is a biblical idea. It is
right,
biblical to protect
yeah,
the innocent and protect who
yeah,
can't protect
right.
themselves.
Yeah, and then you go into, and you've kind of mentioned already, military, the
Yeah.
the war, right? That wartime, all that, all those ideas, man, you got to know where you know, and I think that's it. Is like, what am I doing? Am I protecting my country? Am I
Yeah.
protecting for the U.S.? A lot of times we go and protect other countries.
Yeah.
It's not really even about us. It's about these other countries that are out
Right.
there. And long term, it's about us. But in the short term, so often it's about saving uh, lives of
Yeah.
other countries, which I think is very biblical as well when we think about like the sanctity of life,
Yeah.
and if we're looking and seeing that people are being killed, right? We have not only the right but the onus that we must protect life,
Right.
you know and it's stepping into that and saying, okay, I'm going to do that which I believe is the right thing to do,
Yeah.
and the right thing to do is protect life. And um that's a hard thing. When we went through our conceal and carry class, we had an FBI guy doing it for us, chaplain, worked with a lot of churches, obviously. But one thing that always, you know, stuck in my brain, and I love this because too many, too many people that want to conceal and carry, they're trying to be tough guys,
Right.
right?
Right.
And he said this to the class. He said, just understand the minute that you pull that trigger, you've decided that person doesn't deserve life.
Yeah. That's a heavy
Yeah.
decision.
And he said, so you are making God's decision,
Yeah. Yeah.
because it's God's decision when I live and when I die,
Right.
right? One of my favorite verses, I think it's found in the book of Hebrews, writing about David, that when David had accomplished all that God had for him,
Yeah.
he went home, right? That God decided, okay, David, you've done everything I put you on this earth to do. It's your time. Thinking through that mindset, right? Of so I am not going to choose to kill anybody if I have a choice, right?
Okay. So would
Uh,
you aim
uh,
for a non-lethal shot then?
no,
Okay.
no, only because training will teach you that if that we're not that good of shots,
Oh, okay.
right? That's basically it. Is like, so if if
So
I'm
that's why you go center mass.
if I'm a gunslinger and I could, I'm gonna shoot that gun out of your hand. More than likely not in
Right.
in the heat of the
Wow.
moment. I don't know if you've ever been in a stress moment where you've had to fire before.
Yeah.
Your aim goes from really good to really bad quickly. So you aim center mass every time, because again, you're protecting life,
Yeah.
right? But he was just saying, so just realize that when you do that, you're making that decision, right? That person now, in your opinion, it's their time to go.
Yeah.
You know, he goes, so you're going to fire a lot slower than you
Yeah.
did before.
Yeah.
He said, you're gonna pull, you're gonna be, and I loved what he said. He said, training. That's why I'm so big into training. that if you're going to carry, that you should be training all the time. In fact, I don't carry anymore
Right.
because I've not been firing.
Yeah.
Right. Since we moved from Chicago to Columbus, I don't carry any longer. It's not, I still have my weapons, right? But I don't fire all the time.
Yeah.
And until I start firing all the time, I'm not going to carry again
Yeah.
because I want to have that training. So when we talk about concealed carry, right, I'm going to train so hard that it becomes a natural thing for me to do it the right way.
Yeah.
But that gives my brain time to really process and really see things correctly for what they are.
Yeah.
You know, I'm a big movie guy. MIB, if you remember this from Will Smith, I don't know if you remember the movie.
You got the wrong Wilburn in here for
Yeah,
a
I
movie
know.
reference.
At one point he's in there, and there's all these military guys. He's in NYPD, and they've got a fire, right? They're doing a live action shoot, and there's all these aliens, right? That they bring into this thing, cardboard aliens,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and all these military guys, they're killing all the aliens.
Right.
And Will Smith, this character, he finally shoots, and he shoots this little girl. I mean, point blank. Again, it's a little cardboard. It's not real, right? But you know, they stop the simulation, and they're like, "What are you doing, killing the little girl?" And he goes, and he says this. He says, "Well, it's the middle of the night, and there's this little girl who's like, 12. She's carrying these advanced books, like physics books and all this other stuff, And he goes, and look at this. I love this one. There's like this alien hanging from the light post, and looks like he's snarling, but he's got Kleenex in his hand.
Yeah.
He goes, oh, I realized he
has a cold.
He's got a cold,
Yeah.
right? He's not a threat. He said the only threat I saw was here. And that's kind of, jokingly, I kind of look at that story as such a great story.
Yeah.
Is that all the training in the world, what it really will do for you is give you that opportunity to really look into the situation.
Right.
And again, and I think if we think of life in that concept of like, when do I have the authority to decide it's the end of life for someone?
Yeah.
Well, I better be 100% sure.
Yeah.
It's the right time.
Okay.
And then, go ahead.
So if we're deciding when it's the right time for someone else, can we decide when it's the right time for ourselves? Yeah. Because then you get into assisted suicide. Or honestly, you could look at, is suicide a sin as a whole, because you're making the choice for God that you're done. So
is that not your answer?
Is that, but
it is, I'll just be, it is a sin. Suicide, assisted suicide is a sin.
Okay.
Because you are deciding for yourself.
That I'm done.
Yeah, that you're done, right? Someone's reaching out, they're sick, they're terminally ill, they've had enough, and they're like, no, it's my time, right? Who put you in that spot? Did God give you the authority to say this is your time, right? That you get to decide when your time.
Well, because then it's who owns your life. Do you own your life, or does God own your life?
Right.
Which, if God decided when you come into this world, it would be God who decided.
Bill Cosby, right? He
said,
I
brought you in. I can take you out.
Right. And I think people don't like that answer, but that is the right answer.
Well, because it's a hard answer.
Right.
Because
it's a biblical answer, though, because you don't own yourself.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You were created by God in His image. He formed you in your mother's womb. He decided for you to be on this earth at this moment. Who are you to decide when it's time for you to leave?
Yeah.
But I'm dealing with so much, or I'm in so much pain. I'm dying anyways. Yeah, but you have no idea what your impact will be tomorrow.
Right. And your impact doesn't stop until your heart stopped.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so at what point do you decide that you've had enough? Yeah. Because again, you have no idea what your impact can be tomorrow.
And I'll say even that. I said it stops when your heart stops. That's not even true, though, because I think about specifically, like, if you make the decision to kill yourself, people will miss you. Mm-hmm. And you have no idea how that's going to impact all of the people in your life around you. And we talk a lot in my role working with chaplains of moral injury. Yeah. And moral injury occurs when someone kills himself to the person who's left kind of holding the bag, essentially. Like, well, why didn't I help them? Why couldn't I get through to them? Why couldn't I save them? First of all, it's not, they made the choice. It's not
Yeah,
your fault.
yeah.
But the people who are in the position of wanting to end their life, they need to recognize you'll still hurt people.
Yeah.
You won't see it.
Right.
You won't feel it. But do you want to hurt your loved ones?
Yeah.
And it becomes a selfish thing a little bit. And it's hard to say that because, we know people are hurting, but it changes.
Isn't it interesting, though, if you track suicide in families, normally it's not just one.
Right.
Right. You'll see if someone has had a suicide in their family, at some point there'll be another
they're much
suicide
more
that
likely.
happens.
Yeah, they're connected.
Right. Because of that moral damage that has happened, right, in those individuals. So again, and I love that point because I think it's a great, we're talking about the sanctity of life. We're talking about the value of life. And so again, you've decided for yourself that it was time for you to go, whether it's assisted suicide or suicide itself, right? That you've decided you've had enough thinking, whatever you're thinking, let me just tell you, it doesn't really matter, right? But basically taking that responsibility, saying, okay, I'm standing in God's place. I'm saying this is my time to go. And what you've done is actually hurt those other people around you in a greater way. Yeah. Even those that are terminally ill that have a assisted suicide that goes through, I come from Oregon where we had that, right? That was a thing that was very legal. And you look at that and go, man, their family members still grieved. Yeah. Right. It's still impacted. And they actually, a lot of times you saw the divisiveness of that moment, and it actually tore families apart. Right. Because they're like, I can't believe you killed Grandpa, right? That you helped him die, right? I can't believe you did, right? And all of a sudden, it actually destroyed life, destroyed those living, because now they're dealing with a pain that they should have never dealt with. Right. Because you decided that you're going to put yourself into God's spot. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Life becomes much more valuable, and I think our jumping to what I think is the right thing to do changes a lot more as Christians when we begin to say, who am I to put myself in God's place, to make that decision for God? I take everything I do in a much different light. And so, I look at all of those things, whether it's abortion, suicide, assisted suicide, death penalty, drunk driver killing somebody. I look at all of those things way differently now than I did, a couple decades before, when I just thought, well, I think this is the right thing and that's the right thing, where before I just tell you, before I was like, death penalty, yeah, dude, you kill someone, you deserve to die. You're out, But then I started thinking eternity, and I started thinking, well, God's the one who decides when they die, Man, I make that decision with a lot more weight now than I used to. Yeah. I don't jump to that conclusion any longer. And I think that at the end of the story is what we as Christians should do with every subject when life is in play. Do you think you could sit on a capital murder jury? Yeah, I really do. Only because I think I want to know the truth. Right. Okay. But I will tell you that so I'll never get on them, because I'll be like, if I'm not 100% positive, I mean,
I would hope everybody
it's got to be, but you see, I think people are people, right?
Well, that's fair.
And they jump to conclusions, and they allow the emotion, of the moment, and which is what lawyers do. They get to the emotional side of it. So when I say know where I know, I mean the non-feeling no. Yeah. Right. That
like they bragged about it, and your video of it happening.
Right. Yeah. That I've played it out in my brain so many times, walked through my brain, that I have no doubt. Yeah. I think that would be the thing, is like, again, I want to have a no doubt moment, because if there's an inkling that I think that they're not reprobate, if there's anything like that, like, no, there's just no way, right? Okay. But I think that's how we should live our lives, right? There is a truth, no matter what people want to tell you. There is a truth, right? And when you have that, when you realize that means I need to know, I need to be um, completely convinced,
Mm-hmm.
not because my emotions convince me, not
Right.
because of the emotional response of the anger, the frustration, all that I can look at somebody and say, you're going to hell not because of what I think you've done, but because you've chosen it.
Yeah.
And you will never choose any different.
And you would make the same choice again if you could go back and make the
Exactly.
same choice.
Exactly.
Again.
If I could convince you of God, you still would spit in God's face.
Right.
Okay, cool. Right. I've got to be convinced of that.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And I think that's a moment that we all play out, and I think that's what causes so much struggle in people,
Mm-hmm.
and why there's this polarization. And we kind of talked about polarization in one of our last ones, right? That you know, people like there's no real middle ground. You're either for us or against us. You know, I'm kind of more of I'm kind of in the middle again on that. You know, is it? Yeah, I agree with a lot of people. Is like, man, we got to watch this death penalty thing. It's wrong, but I also agree. Yeah, it's right.
Yeah.
But I don't agree why it's right all the time, like these people, nor do I agree why it's wrong, like all these other people. You know, I think it's that in you know, not playing this middle ground of I don't want to decide either way. No, I just want to be positive.
Right.
You know, the death penalty is not right in every case, but nor is it not right in some cases.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
It,
So how does all of that then affect how we should vote? So, like, as a Christian, can I vote or should I vote for a pro-choice candidate? Because now I'm making a vote that is going to further the valuing of life, right?
Yep.
So is that something we should only vote pro-life?
Yeah.
And then same with death penalty, we should vote for pro-death penalty candidates, or we shouldn't? Or because I know specifically, I know the Catholic Church comes against the death penalty
Yeah.
and against abortion. They put life is life, life is sacred in both
Right.
categories. So where do you stand with that? How does that inform our voting?
Well, I think we vote again for the individual that aligns with the Bible as
Okay.
close as they can
Okay.
to the Bible.
Right.
Because unfortunately, you know, our candidates, most of them are non-Christian, no matter what they say.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think you look at their voting records, you look at the fruit of their life,
Okay.
you know, and I think in abortion, such a great example of I am never going to vote for a pro-choice person.
Right.
Right. Why? Because life begins at conception.
Yeah.
And so anybody that's going to vote to allow abortion is
It's unbiblical.
unbiblical. And I can't vote for them.
Right.
You know, I would rather refrain than vote for if that was
Okay.
if that was my only
You're
choice.
two pro-choice candidates. You're just
I
not
would
voting.
not vote
Yeah.
because again, they are deciding that anybody can decide when life can be terminated.
Yeah.
You know, and so I think it's a lot of research into that and making that decision. So yeah, for me, it's I'm sorry, I just can't vote for a pro-choice individual. Now, if we want to come back to the table and we want to talk, what you know, are there times that abortion is correct? Yeah. I think there are times.
Really?
Right. Well, it's the decision on who's going to die, the mom or the baby. You know,
Well, because if mom dies, baby's probably also going to
right.
die.
So
Right.
so I think and they're so small.
Yeah.
Right. And I think one of the worst things that we've done, if let's just be honest about abortion, is we label everything as abortion. So if I have a miscarriage and I don't have the child, right? If it does, and they've got to go in and clean
Yeah.
the remains, that's considered an abortion.
Yeah. Which is
It's wrong. That's a wrong labeling.
let me tell you how
right?
damaging that can be.
Yes.
Like,
right. And so you're like, all of a sudden now it shows you've had an abortion. You're like, I never aborted.
Well, miscarriage is also
Right.
labeled as
Yeah.
spontaneous abortion.
Right.
And I'm like, do not say that to me.
Right.
Do not use that word to me. Do
So
not
you know,
say that.
and I think a lot of the problem with abortion, if we just talk abortion, is that there's a misunderstanding of all of this.
Right.
And so there's this massive fighting that's going on, and people look at conservatives or look at Christians like me and say, "Oh, you're just, you know, this and that." No. I want to look at the true numbers.
Yeah.
And I want to say, you can't abort a baby because you just decided you want to abort it,
It's
because it's a
inconvenient.
child,
Yeah.
right? But I also understand that there's certain things that we have to really look at the minority of times, and we need to figure out, how do we deal with those moments?
Yeah.
The mom's going to die concept,
Which is a
those
small percentage.
though. You don't even see the number. It's just not even there, right? If we were to talk about it. And then we need to relabel miscarriages. We need to
Yeah.
relabel some of that and clean all that up. And then all of a sudden, I think those individuals that are more on the fence and like, but we've got to help these ladies out, help these women out in these situations. They actually become pro-life,
Right.
because then they realize, oh, we've fixed all the issues that we're talking about.
Yeah.
They fixed all those.
Yeah.
Right? And so, yeah, I think to answer your question, yeah, I couldn't vote for a true pro-choice individual.
Yeah.
But at the same point, I think now when we go to like a death penalty, I wouldn't have qualms voting for either or,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
Because I think that death penalty one is the moment of, like, there's very few people, in my opinion, and this is just my personal opinion,
Mm-hmm.
that deserve the death penalty,
Okay.
right? I think those cases are so rare
Yeah.
that in our current environment, where we can lock somebody up forever,
Yeah.
and throw away the key, then let's throw away the key.
Right.
You're right. You're like, we can actually do that now.
Yeah.
Where before they didn't have that capability, and so things like that, you had to have more often. So yeah, am I pro death penalty in the sense of, yeah, I think there are very small cases
Yeah.
that we probably should have that, right? But in the vast majority of them, I don't think, whether they are taken the chair or lethal injection or whatever we do with them, it wouldn't bother me,
Yeah.
right? But what would bother me more is why they're pro death penalty or why they're against the death penalty.
Right. Because you hear sometimes, oh, it's more economic
Right.
than keeping someone in jail for life.
Right.
It costs a lot to keep
Yeah.
someone in jail for life. I'm like, I'm not sure that's the best way to be judging who gets
that's
executed.
exactly
That's
what
not-
I was saying right
that's
there. I
not
think
it.
that's a beautiful picture
Yeah.
of that. Is if that's your reason, your opinion is because I want to save
It's
the country
inconvenient.
money,
Yeah.
then you don't have God's heart. You don't,
Right.
right? It's not, life is not convenient, right?
Yeah.
And so I think it's again understanding individuals and why they believe what they believe.
Mm-hmm.
Especially in those areas that one's more of a gray area for me.
Mm-hmm.
But again, it's a gray area in the fact of we don't kill everybody, and nor do we just let everybody live.
Yeah. Right.
Right. So I think there's that moment of saying, okay, in our current culture, how it works, how things, what we're able to do, the possibility of reforming, an individual, I think death penalty starts to go away.
Yeah.
But then, again, we go to the abortion side, and I'm like, there's no gray area to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which would put you anti-day after.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
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 Because that's just another form of abortion.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. If you believe in the Bible, if you believe what the Bible teaches, that at conception, basically, pre-conception, even if you want to go that direction,
Yeah.
but at least at conception itself, that God began to form that child,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so the day after would be, I decided not
Yeah.
to allow God to form that child.
There's a risk that it could happen, and I'm not
Right.
accepting that level.
I'm not
of risk.
accepting that level.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you had a candidate who was aggressively, let's use a death penalty, that's something that would be a non-starter for you.
More than likely,
Okay.
yeah, because of their heart. I
Yeah.
want to know their heart. Where are they mentally in that? And I think we're talking about pretty big subjects here, but that's how I vote with everything.
Yeah.
Right. I want to know why it is you believe what you believe about taxes. About what we're doing in this situation and that situation. Because I want to know your heart. I want to know your especially If you label yourself Christian, it does not mean I'm going to vote for you,
Right.
right? I want to know again your fruit. I want to see why you believe what you believe about. How did you vote on these other things?
Yeah.
Right? And why did you vote on these other things? Did you show me that you actually know your Bible, what the Bible says? You know, I tell this church all the time when we get ready to vote the Bible.
Yeah.
I don't vote Republican. I don't vote Democratic. I don't vote Independent. I vote the Bible.
Yeah.
Right? So what does that mean? That means I might vote for a Democrat.
Right.
Or I might vote for a Republican or neither.
Yeah.
Right? Because I see their life and I'm like, mm-mm.
Yeah.
Or the, you know, what the lesser of two evils, right? Sometimes.
Yeah. Do you do the
Right?
lesser of two evils if they're both evil?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
You know, I hate to say that, but yeah. And I think, because there are moments when I look at the candidates and I realize I don't want that level of evil.
Right.
Right. I don't like this guy, but this guy will destroy us.
Yeah.
Right. I think it's in those moments. And I have, and love me, hate me, I have refrained from voting
Okay.
when I'm just like, I can't bring myself to say yes to either one.
Because at the end of your life, you don't want that on your scorecard.
That's not mine. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't vote for evil. Right.
Yeah.
Like two people that are equally evil and are going in, you know, basically the same direction. I can't vote.
Okay.
You know, I know people will say, well, vote, you know, if you don't vote, then you're not exercising your rights, and you're not, you're voting really, you know, you're not voting against them. So you're
Yeah.
voting for them. No, I mean, you know, I'll just be honest. My vote doesn't really matter.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah,
You're not wrong in the grand scheme of things.
yeah, very, very few of our elections,
Yeah.
unfortunately, because of how we do it,
Yeah.
in America, does an individual have a lot to say, especially if you are in a community where, your view is not the majority view.
Yeah. It's going to take a
Right.
lot of friends of yours to tilt.
I mean,
that
I grew up in Oregon, right? Oregon is run by most states is run by the mass cities.
Yeah.
You got Salem, Portland, right? Basically, they're the two biggest cities, and they're highly democratic,
Yeah.
highly independent, a liberal concept, right? And so those cities drive the government of
Right.
Oregon, but it does not represent the people.
Yeah.
You're right. You look at that, and so growing up in Oregon and you know, not agreeing with so much of what was going on, didn't matter what my vote was.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Because the population of those cities, which were mostly individuals that had come from outside of Oregon and weren't raised in Oregon, they
Yeah.
come from outside of Oregon. In fact, Oregon has a sign. It's really funny, from the California border. As you go from Oregon to California, it says, "Thanks for visiting Oregon," right? Like, and from Washington, Oregon, Washington, it says, "Hey, come again."
Huh.
Right. So it's like, we're okay with the Washingtons. We don't want the Californians
Right,
to come in,
right.
because the Californians, they brought in their liberal views, and, you know, because again, Oregonians, true Oregonians, you know, we're lumberjacks, right?
Right.
We're out in that kind of mindset, not tree huggers, and
Yeah. Tree choppers.
yeah, we are. Yeah, I mean, I worked at a lumber mill, right? I remember the days, and most people outside of Oregon don't understand the spotted owl controversy, some of the other things that happened that killed cities. We have ghost cities because of protecting a spotted owl, and it put thousands of people out of jobs and destroyed the city.
But isn't that protecting life? I'm just saying.
I like.
Is that not protecting
One of my
life?
favorite bumper stickers is I think I was in high school at this point. It's
Yeah.
like, I like my spotted owls fried. I love that one. And you know, again, I know now I'm making people mad at me, but you know, I think we talk about sanctity of life, in that concept
Yeah.
is, well, whose life is more valuable, an
Yours or
owl's
the owls. Yeah.
or a human?
Yeah.
And so we're going to destroy a city. We're going to destroy the families
Right.
of individuals because of an owl that is really cute, but
Yeah.
right. And so I think, you know, we're talking about voting, right, in that concept, and so it's very, very rare do I not vote, right? I mean, we're talking very rare,
Yeah.
but if I just cannot, if it doesn't sit in my spirit right where I've been praying, because by the way, that's what I do. I pray, right? Like who's on the ballot? What's on the ballot? God, what does your word say? God, help me with this. And if I never have a confidence in like, okay, God, I think I'm doing the right thing, I'm not going to do it.
Okay.
It's the Moses saying, God, unless you go with me, I'm not going.
I'm not doing it. Yeah.
I want to do that with how I vote as well, right? Because this stuff matters to me, right? And it should. It should matter, and it bothers me. I don't know. I'm getting onto voting now, but it bothers me how many people vote and never look at the ballot.
Yeah.
Right? They go in and they go by name recognition. They go by who's
Party affiliation.
Right? Yeah, party affiliation, and they never ask themselves, well, is this guy or girl are they really who they say they are?
Yeah.
And I think you're seeing that in some of the politics that have happened just recently, where they said, hey, we're going to do one thing, and they got voted in, and all of a sudden they're just messing the world up, and the people who voted for them are surprised.
Yeah.
It's like, you shouldn't have been surprised if you would have looked at
their
voting records. You would have saw this is how they were. They ran on a platform to get your vote.
Yeah.
But you didn't look at who they were. And I think as Christians, whether it's sanctity of life or any other thing, that we should be looking at it and praying and going, what does the word of God say? And that's how I vote.
Yeah.
And if I can't get a comfort level on those, right, then I'm not going to vote for either.
Okay.
Because I'm not voting for evil, right?
Yeah.
And I want to be positive, right?
Yeah.
In that. And I think it kind of wraps that whole sanctity of life in a nice shell. Like, do I know where I know that I have the authority to end life?
Yeah. Well, as we're almost out of time, so can you wrap the perspective? So abortion, is that biblical or no?
No.
Okay. Concealed carry. Would you say yes or no?
Yeah, it's protection of life.
Okay.
Right.
So then that brings us to assisted suicide or suicide in general. We can drop the assisted.
Not biblical.
And then death penalty.
Yeah, it's biblical.
Okay. I think that's a nice little bow.
Nice little, as everyone's mad at that one. But, I think, again, it's the knowing at the end of the day, who am I willing to send to eternity, hell or heaven? When do I make that decision? When do I make a decision that this individual is, their value of life is, or there's no reason for them, right? And I think that all these conversations just need to be had.
Yeah.
And we try to make them cut and dry, so I don't like my answer like no. Only
you don't like the thing I just made you do.
Yeah, only because, again, I don't think we have the full conversation.
Yeah.
And because people will say, okay, well, he doesn't believe in abortion, and this is what he said. But no, that's not what I said.
Yeah.
Right. So we got to look at every life, and we look at that moment, and we ensure that we've labeled it correctly. We ensure it right, because again, we label abortion incorrectly in some cases. And what they are. So I think these conversations, they're very easy to say biblically, this is the right answer, but people will then play that out in their mind. And I think suicide, and I know we're running out of time, but suicide's such a beautiful example of that in the concept of, like, I say, biblically suicide's wrong. People hear me say people who commit suicide are going to hell.
Right, which is not what you said.
I have not said that.
Yeah.
I don't believe that. If you've ever heard me preach, teach, talk about suicide, I don't. I've got some cool theories on it, right? Maybe one day we'll dive into it, but that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying it's wrong.
Yeah.
Right? And will people who've committed suicide, will they be in heaven? I think some will.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And thank God I'm not the one to decide that.
Yeah.
But will everybody that commits suicide be going to hell? I'm not saying that.
Yeah.
And I don't believe that, right? But is suicide incorrect? Yes.
Yeah.
Right? So I think we as Christians, let me just talk to Christians again. We are black and white, right? There are things, abortion's wrong, suicide's wrong, assisted suicide is wrong, right? Murder is wrong. All the, like, we can say that. But as we're saying that, we have to ensure or at least as we're hearing others say it too, we need to make sure that we understand what they're saying,
Yeah.
right? Because it's not this, oh, you are evil because you're telling me everyone who commits suicide is going to hell. No,
No, that's not
right?
that's not the story.
So I just think we have to have that conversation and as Christians be open with one another to really get our opinions and our emotions out off of this
Mm-hmm.
and say, okay, what does the Bible say? And let's just really have a conversation
Yeah.
around it. And I think a lot of this divisiveness, a lot of this ugliness that happens, all of a sudden gets washed away because you're actually hearing my heart,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you're like, oh man, that seems like really harsh that you say that suicide's wrong. But then when you start really sitting down with me and talking with me, all of a sudden you're like, oh, you're not as evil as it sounded like.
Right.
You know, you're not as judgmental as it sounded like you were, because we had some chance to talk.
Yeah.
So I think that's a great wrap up. Can we actually have honest conversations?
Yeah.
Church, have an honest conversation with people. Tell them why you believe what you believe, right? And what that means. And at the end of the day, when we talk about life, to me, it's just that one concept. Who am I to decide somebody their end of life is now, and it's my decision? Because when I put it there, I don't have that power, and thank God I don't have that power. I don't want that power. So hopefully this has been informative, helpful, stirred some thoughts into you. Hopefully maybe you can sit down and talk with some people about it as well. If you have any questions, comments, thoughts, some subjects you might want us to cover later on, let us know. But until next time, be blessed. Well, hey, thanks for spending a slice of your day with us. If today's conversation encouraged you, challenged you, or sparked a new thought, we'd love to hear about it. Follow us on social media to keep the conversation going, and don't be shy. Send in your comments, your questions, or even topic suggestions for future episodes. This podcast is about living out our faith in real life, and your voice helps us shape it. Until next time, keep walking with grace and keep living the life God's called you to.